Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar, Iron Mountain's 7 Keys to Leading with Inclusion from the CEO level to the front line. My name is Ryan Carroll. I'm an account manager at Getting Hired, and I'm very pleased to welcome Getting Hired employer partners, job seekers, community partners, and our friends to today's special presentation. Iron Mountain, a valued Getting Hired employer partner, is the world's premier enterprise information management service company. Iron Mountain is a global business dedicated to storing, protecting, and managing information and assets, and one with a deep commitment to attracting, developing, and advancing the best and most diverse talent across the globe. Today, our special guests from Iron Mountain will share how they prioritized inclusion and embedded accountability for diversity from the CEO level to their frontline business, as well as some of the ways that those interested in applying for jobs at Iron Mountain can put themselves in the best position to be interviewed and hired. Before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items. Audio for this presentation is available through your phone line. Just dial the phone number on the screen and enter the conference ID 843-01579. During the presentation, all attendees will be placed on mute, but you can use the Q&A box to the right of your screen if you have questions during the presentation. If you are unable to access the chat box, you can email your questions to rcarroll@gettinghired.com, and I'll be sure to ask them at the end of the presentation. Captioning is available. Just click the link in the chat box, which I am posting right now. During this presentation, we will be playing a 1-minute video. This video's audio track will only play through your computer, not through the conference line. So please use the next few minutes to log into the WebEx event if you've not already done so, or plan to use the caption link to read the audio track if you're unable to access the WebEx at this time. Finally, this webinar will be published on our website after the presentation, so you can review it and share it with others who might be interested. And now I'm very pleased to introduce Iron Mountain's own Bryce Taish and Patricia Kabongo. Bryce Taish is a talent management leader with 18 years of experience helping people grow, learn, and achieve their potential. 12 years ago, Bryce joined Iron Mountain, where he currently serves as Director of Inclusion and Diversity. Bryce is grateful to work with employees around the world to drive strategies that build a more diverse workforce and create a more inclusive culture. Bryce lives in Minneapolis with his husband and 10 and 11-year-old sons. Patricia Kabongo is a certified senior talent acquisition partner with 10-plus years of experience attracting, sourcing, and retaining top talent. Patricia's passion for talent acquisition has shined over her last 6 years at Iron Mountain. As one of the company's talent acquisition managers, Patricia manages the function for Iron Mountain's data management, federal business, and accounting verticals, while focusing on attracting and sourcing diverse candidates across the organization. Patricia is also bilingual in French and English and resides in Toronto, Canada. Bryce and Patricia, thank you very much for being here with us today. On behalf of everyone on the call, please tell us your story.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you much. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your spending some time with us. As our agenda today, my friend Patricia and I would like to share with you a bit about our inclusion and diversity strategy at Iron Mountain and how we are working to make inclusion really part of everything we do. Specifically, we're going to share 7 things that we're doing this year at Iron Mountain to build a more inclusive company and make sure that all of our employees are able to reach their full potential. And from there, Patricia will talk with you about what we look for when we are considering job candidates, what kind of roles we're looking to fill, and how some of you, if you're interested, might be able to join the Iron Mountain family. So you might be wondering, who is Iron Mountain? So just really briefly, I'd like to share a bit about our organization. We are the global leader for storage and information services, as Ryan shared. We have 25,000 employees in 45 countries, so we are a global company. And all of us, regardless of our role, are committed to achieving our vision of being the trusted guardians of what matters most to our customers. Some of you might have seen Iron Mountain trucks driving around your neighborhoods, and you might associate us with records management or shredding services. And while that is a really big part of our business, we do so much more to protect and preserve assets of all kinds, from data management to art storage to historical artifacts to movies and music. And we are, regardless of what assets we Protect, we are just really grateful that our customers trust us to partner with them. We have about 220,000 organizations around the world that we work with, including, quite possibly, some of you. And if that's the case, we look forward to hopefully learning from you as well about what you're doing around inclusion and diversity to see if there are any collaboration opportunities there. So that's just a bit about Iron Mountain. If I could, I'd like to talk a little bit about my role as Director of Inclusion and Diversity. And I love my job. I consider myself really fortunate to be able to work with amazing people around the world to make sure that at Iron Mountain we're doing everything we can to build a truly inclusive culture. And we're very transparent in showing our inclusion and diversity strategy, which has 4 focus areas. And before we get into the 7 things that we're doing this year, I'd like to just share a bit about the strategy that you see here. In the blue bubble in the middle of your screen, everything that we do is coming back to how can we lead with inclusion. And that means that we want to make sure that inclusion is embedded in our core values, in our learning programs, in our onboarding experience for our new employees, in our leadership development programs, in our code of conduct, really everywhere, so that inclusion can be practiced and championed by all employees. And in a moment, Patricia and I will be talking about some of what we're doing in this area. The second focus area is around increasing diversity. And this is true for all levels of our organization, but especially among our leadership roles. And when we're talking about increasing diversity, I'm talking about all kinds of diversity: gender, race, ethnicity, military veterans, people who identify as LGBT, and individuals with disabilities. And that's where our partners like Getting Hired come in. At the leadership levels, as we'll talk about in a moment as well, we're doing some new things this year to make sure that we are sourcing and bringing on the most diverse talent possible. Now, I mentioned that we're a global company, and the third part of our inclusion and diversity strategy is the orange bubble over on the right. And that's simply, how can we make sure that we are thinking globally and acting locally so that we can best meet our customers' needs? And we need to do this, all of us, regardless of what we do at Iron Mountain, to make sure that we can collaborate across geographies, oceans sometimes, cultures, languages, to make sure that we're all doing great things together. And then the last part of our focus areas here is down at the bottom in the arrow, which says Embed I&D Accountability. I&D at Iron Mountain stands for Inclusion and Diversity. And this is really, really important. How do we all hold each other accountable to success? And we'll be talking about some of these elements as well. So I share this framework kind of right from the start to show how at Iron Mountain, inclusion and diversity really are important to us, and that regardless of what we do, what our title is, where we sit, all of us at Iron Mountain own inclusion. All right. So something that I'd like to share is how we have included inclusion as part of our core values. So we have 5 core values at Iron Mountain, and one of those is promoting inclusion and teamwork. And what this means is that we truly look for and listen to and value each other's unique ideas and perspectives and abilities and backgrounds, all so that we can receive better results. And this is really at the heart of who we are. If you are familiar with Iron Mountain, we have this really family-type culture, and we want to make sure that we are including everyone. And this value is reflected in our thinking and our decisions and how we interact with each other, how we serve our customers, and how we help the communities where we work and live. We ask all employees to role model certain inclusive behaviors, and some of those you can see on the screen here. We want to make sure that we're all treating each other with fairness and respect and empathy. We want to make sure that when we are making important decisions or looking to solve problems, we're bringing together diverse people because that's the best way to get diverse ideas. We ask a lot of questions here. We're curious about each other, and we want to make sure we're always coming from a place of respect to understand where other people are coming from. As a global company, we respect different cultures, and we want to make sure that our teams reflect the communities where we work. And then also tying into this for our folks who are people managers who have team members who report into them, we want to make sure that all of our leaders are creating a safe and welcoming workplace. We talk a lot about safety and security at Iron Mountain, and that's not only physical safety, but it's also emotional or psychological or social safety. And what can our leadership do to make sure that everyone at Iron Mountain can bring what we call their full selves to work and not have to cover any part of their identity. So I've been using the terms inclusion and diversity for a few minutes here, and without defining them. And I suspect that these concepts, these ideas mean different things to each of us. So I'd like to talk about what they mean at Iron Mountain. Here, we talk about diversity as being a fact. It just simply is. Diversity is all around us because we see diversity as everything that makes us who we are. All of our unique characteristics, all of our experiences, all the ways that we're similar, and of course the ways that we're, excuse me, different as well. And we're making sure that diversity is considered whenever we're making decisions around hiring or promotion or anything else at Iron Mountain. Diversity is absolutely important, but equally important is inclusion. And that's where we lead here, because if diversity is a fact, we see inclusion as a behavior. Some of those role model behaviors that I was just going through are all about how do each of us create an environment where everyone feels involved and connected and respected, and where their ideas are heard and valued. And if I could, I'll talk about inclusion in a very personal way for a moment. So I define myself in part by my disability. I live with clinical depression, and just as I define myself as gay or biracial, male, married, father of two, and many, many other things that make me whole, my disability is a part of who I am. It's a small part, but it's an important part, and I share this so that you can, well, I share this with all of my coworkers at Iron Mountain so that I can be my authentic self at work, but also to show you, as someone who might be thinking about joining the Iron Mountain team, how we truly do value disability, just as we value all forms of diversity. And we really do encourage all of our employees, as they're comfortable, of course, to share their stories. And Patricia, I know you have a story to share as well.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you. My friend Bryce just shared a very powerful personal story on inclusion. And for me, inclusion became embedded into my character at a young age when my family and I fled the civil war in Congo and moved to a small city outside Toronto called Burlington. Here I was, 7 years old, learning English, seeing snow for the first time in my life in a small town with very little diversity. Fortunately, the community was very welcoming in embracing my diversity, and very often children and adults alike were keen on learning more about my background, which really led me to recognize two important things. As Bryce mentioned, the first one, the importance of education and inclusion, whether it is in a forum like we have here today, learning about one another and sharing our stories is truly fundamental. Education is fundamental in inclusion. And number two, whether it is in a community or professional setting, there's so much power and strength to be gained whenever a group of diverse people come together. Now that Bryce and I have shared more about our stories, let's meet some of our Iron Mountain colleagues and learn more about how we view inclusion and diversity.
Thank you. We're now going to play Iron Mountain's diversity video. The audio track will only play through your computer, so if you've joined the conference line, you will hear about 89 seconds of silence. You can read the audio track by clicking the caption link in the chat box.
Excellent. Thank you, Ryan and Patricia. It's awesome just to every time I see that video, just to see lots of or a few people who work at Iron Mountain who are absolutely amazing. So now what Patricia and I would like to do is share with you some of what we're doing this year around inclusion. And I just want to preface by saying we are not perfect here. We view inclusion as a journey, and to Patricia's point, we're always learning from our employees and our customers to keep getting better at inclusion. I'd like to start with one of the things that we're doing here is starting right at the top of the house. So our Chief Executive Officer, Bill Meany, and his senior leadership team, they all have inclusion goals, and they're tailored for each leader and the function that he or she leads. My boss, who is our Chief Diversity Officer, meets with our senior leaders quarterly at a minimum to discuss progress towards these goals. And these goals are beyond numbers, the number of women or the number of people of color, or individuals with disabilities. Many of our senior leaders are co-sponsors for one of our 6 employee resource groups. So some of their goals might be associated with activities that relate to those groups. Some goals might tie into what a leader is particularly passionate about. So we have some leaders who are really interested in supporting the careers of women working in science and technology. We might have another leader who's really interested in advocating on behalf of LGBT equality. Our CEO, I think, is also really making it a goal to communicate often and from an authentic place about what inclusion really means at Iron Mountain. And in a recent email to the company, he summarized his thoughts in 2 sentences, which is that we embrace everyone in the Iron Mountain family for being their full selves and always treating each other with fairness, respect, and empathy. And he wants to make sure that everyone is able to be themselves, and to also make it clear we don't accept anything less, that if someone can't be themselves, we're failing that individual. So we have to all collectively create that culture. And that is one of his goals, is to make sure that we are creating that culture there. Our leaders do have goals to increase representation, especially of women and people of color among their leaders. And we have a number of strategies in place to ensure that we are always reaching the most amazing, talented, diverse talent, and including, of course, individuals with disabilities. And embedding disability into these goals is one of the things that we're focused on this year. And this is one of the reasons we're here today, and Getting Hired is helping us with that goal. Number 2 in the list here, another thing that we're doing is expanding our unconscious bias training and our inclusive leadership training. And we've been doing this type of leadership development for a bit now. This year what we're doing is we're training our human resources teams to be able to offer the training around the world, so it's available whenever our leaders need it in whatever format they might need it. We believe that we all have biases, and we want to make sure that each of us understand those biases and make sure that they aren't influencing our decisions or our interactions at work. We're also providing more inclusive leadership training, some of which is offered through a partner of ours called Catalyst, who you might be familiar with. They are a nonprofit organization with a mission to expand opportunities for women and business. The third thing that I'd like to speak to before I pass it over to Patricia is how we are expanding our resources on our company intranet site, so more of our employees can learn about how they can own being inclusive. So we've had this site for a couple years now, and it includes a lot of different videos and articles and activities and assessments. And some of these are from our partner Catalyst, others are internally developed. This year, what we're doing is we're adding to this library. So to date, a lot of this content has been fairly general in nature. And this year, we want to make sure that we are focusing more on specific dimensions of diversity. So examples of these resources might be how to have bold conversations about race, or how to lead a multi-generational team, or how to be an LGBT ally, or how to support team members with disabilities. And that's something that Getting Hired is helping us with there as well. So we want to make sure, because we do have this really incredible rich diversity, that all of our team members can access information to learn how they can be as inclusive as possible. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Patricia.
Great, thanks, Bryce. So number 4, one of the things that we've done really well is to incorporate IND in our talent discussions and decisions. Essentially, we are wearing our diversity lens to make sure we're looking up, down, and deep in all of our talent decisions. Number 5, earlier Bryce spoke about how we lead with inclusion. We've incorporated that belief into our recruitment processes by ensuring our talent acquisition team recruits diverse candidate slates for key roles at the director and above level. And we've made some significant strides with great progress over the last year in hiring women in leadership roles. Number 6, later this year, we're launching a self-disclosure campaign for employees to voluntarily share different dimensions of their identities. We're doing this not so much for compliance purposes, but because, just like the two of us shared in our diversity stories today, we want all of our employees to know that they can be their full selves at work. And the more that we know about our employees, the more that we can offer programs and benefits that are important to them. Here's a perfect example. Recently, our LGBT group helped us change our benefits coverage to include gender reassignment for our transgender employees. As more of our employees confidentially and voluntarily share their disability status or veteran status or other elements of their diversity, the more we can do as an organization to ensure we are an amazing place for all of our employees to work. And lastly, about 1,200 employees are part of our ERG today. We are launching our 7th ERG for individuals and families with disabilities, along with those who care about people with disabilities. To better allow interaction amongst our ERG groups, we are launching a new internal social media platform for our group members to collaborate. Our ERGs are also becoming more closely aligned with business strategy and across community involvement and through customer engagement and internal mentorship and development. The ERGs work very closely with our senior leaders to make sure we are working on activities that not only meet the needs of our members, but that drive the business as well. Next, I'd like to share more information about what we look for in our employees. In our employees, we look for people that demonstrate values of teamwork and collaboration, interacting with people effectively with an ability and willingness to share information. Work standards, employees that value setting and maintaining high performance standards while paying close attention to detail. We look for motivation, displaying energy and enthusiasm in approaching the job, and commitment to putting in effort to the job. We look for reliability and dependability, taking personal responsibility for job performance. And finally, communication. We look for employees that express ideas, organize and deliver information effectively. You might also be wondering what a typical job looks like at Iron Mountain. And as you can see here from the pictures that we have displayed, we offer a wide range of career opportunities from coast to coast and country to country. As Bryce mentioned, we are a global organization, and the jobs range from anything from the warehouse to the executive suite, from sales to transportation and customer support. We look beyond the job and hire people we think will be a good fit for our organization. And as I wrap up, I'd like to share 5 resume tips and best practices for our job seekers on the line. The average recruiter spends only 6 seconds reviewing your resume, so it's really important that you stand out. Number 1, provide accurate contact information and links. The top of your resume should list your current address, email, and phone number. If you have a LinkedIn profile or a career-related website, include those links in the contact section as well. Number 2, customize your resume. One resume does not fit all jobs. Tailor your resume for the job at hand. Make sure you cover all of the job qualifications and match the job requirements with your proven work experience and examples. Number 3, you really want to use keywords. Find and use keywords that apply to the job you want. Make sure you are using the same words as the employer and essentially speaking the employer's language. Number 5, you want to make sure your resume is readable. Don't get too fancy with your resume, especially when submitting online. Keep the font simple and the font size in check. Use normal margins and conventional formats. Employers expect to see things in a certain format, so don't waste your 6-second review. And finally, put your best points up at the top. Highlight your top features at the top of your resume. For example, list your best qualifications first at the top of your resume. And as I conclude, I'd like to encourage job seekers to set yourself up for career alerts, to be notified of new openings as they become available that match your requirements. And you can do so by visiting our careers page at ironmountain.jobs and also through our Getting Hired page, where jobs are published in a fully accessible format. And if you need any accommodation, please email accommodation requests to accommodationrequest@ironmountain.com. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Bryce.
Thank you much. So I just wanted to summarize some of what I shared, and we wanted to leave plenty of time for questions as well. So of what, in our experience, I think the 3 things that have mattered the most have been receiving buy-in from our leadership, true buy-in. At Iron Mountain, that starts with our CEO. We work hard to make sure our senior leaders are all in when it comes to creating an environment where our employees can be themselves. And as I mentioned, our CEO and his senior executive team has annual inclusion goals to make sure that it's always top of mind. The second thing is to make sure, if we're going to lead with inclusion, if you are going to view it as that type of priority, you not only need to define it, but you need to define the behaviors that you're looking for your employees to demonstrate. And as we work together, we're getting better at practicing that every day. And then third, related to core values. So obviously, inclusion is a core value here. I think that inclusion and/or diversity are core values at many organizations. At Iron Mountain, it's as important as safety and security. And when you make it a value and you have it out there for all employees to see every day, and then when you have the behaviors that support it for people to practice, that's really what we're seeing, that it truly becomes part of our culture. And as I mentioned at the start, are we perfect when it comes to inclusion? We're not, because as people we're not perfect. But what I can say after 12 years working here is that we truly care for each other. I mean, we really, really care for each other, and we work hard to make sure that we are listening to each other and valuing each other and celebrating each other, learning along the way. And we're certainly, I'll pass it to you, Ryan, to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions. But I would also just like to share what I said at the beginning, that if there are any organizations here who would like to learn more, Patricia and I would be thrilled offline to chat more and learn about what you're doing and see if there's any partnership opportunities there.
Thank you so much, Bryce and Patricia. And after this call, we will be sharing out some key takeaways from this presentation, and simply reply back to that email if you'd like to get in touch personally with Bryce and Patricia to our employer audiences and organizational audiences on the call. We do have a great deal of questions that have come through, so this should be a great dialogue. I hope everyone can stay on the phone and join us for this. Bryce and Patricia, thank you so much for that presentation. The first question is from an employer, and this would be for Bryce. Can you tell us just who the Chief Diversity Officer reports to at Iron Mountain?
Yeah, sure. So our Chief Diversity Officer reports into our Chief People Officer, who in turn reports into our CEO. And her name is Deirdre Evans, our Chief People Officer. She also, like many of our senior executives, is a co-sponsor for one of our employee resource groups. So she co-sponsors our women's network. And what's interesting about our employee resource groups, so they're all co-chaired by two different senior leaders, and we try very hard to make sure that one of those leaders is a member of the community shares an affinity with the group, and the other does not. So she co-chairs or co-sponsors that group with the gentleman who oversees all of our field operations in North America and in Western Europe.
Thank you, Bryce. Sorry, just sifting through the questions. I have a job seeker question, actually from you like to hear this, from our job seeker audience. So I guess this one would be for you, Bryce. I generally don't self-identify as a person with a disability until I get a face-to-face interview scheduled. When I apply to Iron Mountain, and in parentheses, and I will be applying, love to hear that, do you recommend that I do the same?
So it's a great question, and so I'll start by saying that, of course, the decision to self-identify is always a very personal decision, and so I can't necessarily make that decision for anyone, and I've struggled with that myself as over the years. You know, when to identify and what are the risks associated with that. What I can say is that at Iron Mountain, we highly encourage people to, as they're comfortable, to identify as early in the application process as possible. Of course, you can self-identify at any time, but if you identify early, we can help, especially if accommodations are required, right from the start. I don't know if that answers the question, Ryan.
Thank you, Bryce. Thank you, Bryce. Patricia, I have another job seeker question. I have 6 months of experience as an imaging specialist, but it was nearly 10 years ago. Would I still be a viable candidate for Iron Mountain's entry-level positions, or has the technology changed too much for me to be qualified for that type of role?
Thanks, Ryan. What a great question. I would definitely encourage the job seeker to go ahead and apply. We would value any past experience for this position, even if it was several years ago, because the position is entry level. We have a lot of great programs that we offer from a training perspective to be able to bring the employee up to speed with some of the new methodologies around imaging. So we welcome the opportunity for past experience and the willingness to want to learn the new skills as the industry might have changed over the years. So definitely encourage the job seeker to apply.
There you go. You heard it right from Patricia. Thank you for the question. Bryce, an employer question. Like many on the phone, my company is an Iron Mountain client, so thank you for presenting today. Do you have any tips on how to ensure that teams who work on-site at client locations stay connected to Iron Mountain's inclusion and diversity strategy?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's hard. It's one of the things that we've experienced as a challenge, because we do have employees around the world, very distributed. Sometimes, you know, just a few employees in a facility, and many of our employees do not, you know, have they're not wired. They don't necessarily have a work computer. So one of the things that we've done is to have kiosks in all of our facilities, so someone can go onto our intranet and look at information. Something that we're doing this year, and we're going to be launching this summer, we are going to be launching an internal social media platform so that our employees can access at any time from, you know, any device, and to be able to connect with each other, but specific to topics around inclusion and diversity. So our ERG members will use it as a way to connect with each other and collaborate, but we're also creating or we're also envisioning that this will give people a chance to kind of create less formal networks. So if someone's interested in a book club, for instance, or if someone is interested in a community event, or a wine tasting, whatever the case might be. So not necessarily around diversity topics, but topics of interest to groups that can then kind of create their own networks. So I'll be eager to see how that goes, but already in our pilot it's being well received.
Wonderful, Bryce. And not to open up too many trade secrets about your pilot, but we received another question from an employer that kind of dovetails with what you're doing around a social media platform to talk about diversity. Question reads, how do you get employees engaged and motivated to participate in the inclusion discussions and culture? So perhaps sort of that might be taking what you just shared about the strategy and the platform, one step further. If there's anything you want to share on that.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and to be honest, we haven't solved for this quite yet either. We have more and more employees who are becoming engaged in the discussion. I think what's really changed our culture here in this regard is that the more our employees see our senior leaders in town hall meetings, in group huddles, in other venues, talking about inclusion from a really genuine place, the more excited they get, and then they share their stories, and it becomes kind of this snowball effect. If I could give a brief example, our co-sponsor for our LGBT group, who heads up our North America field operations, he regularly meets with not only the members of the employee resource group, but he talks about the group in a lot of different settings, and then he expands it to beyond just LGBT employees, but employees of different abilities or different genders or different races, different backgrounds. And so when our employees see a straight white male who's been at the organization for many years and is very well respected, talking about inclusion from this really genuine place, it gets them excited, and then they know that they can start to do that as well. Whether they want to be a member of an employee resource group or not, it's just having those conversations.
Excellent, thank you. And possibly another one that kind of dovetails with this. A lot of questions about culture today. Employer writes, thank you very much for sharing your story. What kinds of inclusion and diversity initiatives do you have in place specifically to help drive retention of diverse talent in addition to ERGs? Are there lean-in circles or other initiatives in place?
So I love the idea of lean-in circles. We aren't doing those today. That's a great idea, so I'll jot that down. We do have a number of different programs in place. We have a women's leadership program where we put a number of high potential women through. It's a 6-month mentorship and leadership development program. It's through another partner of ours that we work with called Interaction Associates, and they have a really great experience there. We are looking at mentorship programs as well for other underrepresented groups, and especially our military veterans. We're looking at it for people of color as well. Around retaining all of our employees, not only our diverse employees, we often look at our teams and make sure that everyone is happy here, right? So we do a lot of internal assessments and have a lot of discussions to make sure that no talent is at risk of leaving the organization. And if we need to build individual development plans to stretch folks even further or to present other opportunities to make sure that they're continuing to grow, we kind of look at that on a case-by-case basis. Hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, thank you, Bryce. And if I'm not mistaken, you have been, Iron Mountain's been recognized for its leadership and training programs. Is that correct? Just to give you a chance.
We have for the last few years, yeah. By the, we've been a member of the training top 125, I think the last 4 years, if I remember correctly, and our colleagues on the learning team are doing amazing things. And what's great is that almost all of that learning is co-designed by our employees as well. So it's truly a collaborative effort.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So co-designing, there's a good takeaway for our employer audience. One more employer question so far. Again, anyone on the call, we've got about 80 of you. You can just chat any questions in the Q&A box. We have some time. Bryce, I think this will be for you again. I was wondering if you could share some of the challenges that you may have come across in expanding your North American diversity goals to other countries and markets. This is always a topic internally at my organization, the Employer Rights.
Yeah, so that is a challenge here as well. So a lot of empathy to whoever shared the question. So our strategy has been primarily North America-centric to date, and we're beginning to have some discovery discussions in some other parts of the world. I'm going to Spain at the end of April to meet with a number of our leaders in Western Europe to look at some things we can do there. So I would say at Iron Mountain, one of our biggest challenges has been that we don't necessarily have the same HR systems and processes in all of the countries where we operate. So we're in the midst of a multi-year transformation effort initiative to standardize systems and processes, and that will certainly make inclusion and diversity efforts that much easier, right? So we can really understand our workforce and be able to get the data to actually then build whatever programs might be needed. And then, of course, the other challenge, I suppose, would be that, diversity means different things around the world. So it's truly, and this is what we're beginning to do right now, is work with all of our country leaders and their HR partners to understand, what does diversity mean in India, and how does that differ from in China, and how does that differ from in Hungary. And once we understand that, what do we do with that information? So I don't necessarily have any answers there. Certainly it's part of our roadmap, but whoever asked the question, if you would like to brainstorm more, we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you, Bryce. And I can tell you there was no follow-up that said, please tell us how diversity is different in Hungary. So you don't have to answer that.
Good, because I wouldn't be able to answer that.
That wraps up all of the questions that we received. I want to spend just another 60 seconds on the takeaways from this presentation. For Getting Hired job seekers who joined today's presentation, want to remind you that Patricia and Bryce are eager to hear from you. Please check out their career site at ironmountain.jobs to search for both their corporate positions and their frontline business positions located around the country and around the world. You can sign up for career alerts on that page as well. It's a great website. If you do need to view Iron Mountain Jobs in a fully accessible format, you can go to gettinghired.com. That link will be in the recap email that will be sent out later this week. And for our Getting Hired employer partners and friends who made the call, thank you so much for attending. You'll have a recap email sent out in the next few days that will contain a link to the recording, the presentation, and some just salient takeaways for you to bring to your organizations as well. If you want to reply to that email and possibly get in touch with Bryce and Patricia for some collaboration, you heard it here today. They're open to talking and open to networking. So one of the best things about Getting Hired is the opportunity to connect two inclusive organizations together to come up with some new ideas. At this time, if there's no more questions, then we can conclude this webinar. Bryce and Patricia, is there anything final you'd like to leave us with?
Just a big thank you, Ryan, to everybody that joined today. It was great to be here with you, and for all the job seekers, we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Ryan.
Thank you. This now concludes our webinar. You will see a recap in the next 1 to 2 days. Have a wonderful rest of the week, everyone. Thank you so much.